All right. Are you on here?
I was. I think that's probably silly. Make sure.
We're here. We're just making sure.
I see a light.
All right. We're on the light at the end of the tunnel. Hello and welcome back to another daily Bible reading and discussion. This is Jesse and Edwin.
Yes, here we are.
Here from the Lenore City Church of Christ.
But you can come visit us anytime you wish.
Absolutely.
We'd love to see you. Tell us you're a listener when you come.
Yeah. And if you are listening, please remember to go ahead and heart, care, comment, share. Someone suggested last night that we get a little board back here that says that.
Okay.
That'd be kind of cool, I think. Or not. I don't know. Or I'll just keep saying it.
We'll take it under advisement.
We'll take it under advisement. If someone buys us the board and puts it up, we'll probably.
Yeah, we would.
Yeah. So, but we are in Luke 19, and we're going to be, I know the daily, if you're following the daily Bible reading schedule, which I think a lot of you are just kind of scratch that and just follow us, which we're following it. It has only 3 days this week of reading, but the second day has 20 and 21 together. And if you go read how long those chapters are, the AI generator was insane.
That's what artificial intelligence will do for you.
Yeah, so anyone who thinks artificial intelligence is at that step, we're not there.
It's certainly not biblically literate.
Yes. So we are going to split it into 4 days. So we're going to do 19, 20, 21, and 22. And next week we'll be coming back with an actual podcast. So we'll have 4 next week with a podcast. So we do every other week. At least we try.
We'll journey into John next week.
And we journey into John next week. So we're moving along.
We are.
We're moving along. But we're in Luke 19, and we're kind of coming to a climax of this tax collector, Pharisee. You know, the Pharisees have been watching Jesus sitting with tax collectors. This rich man development. I think Zacchaeus fulfills a lot of the rich man, tax collector. Can a rich man enter heaven?
Yeah.
It's impossible without God.
Who happens
Can
to
a
be
tax collector enter heaven? Impossible without God. And now we're going to have a rich tax collector, and we're going to see him kind of come together.
Even a rich tax collector. And a great tree climber at that.
Absolutely, yeah. All right, so we're jumping in.
Okay, here we go. He entered Jericho and was passing through. And there was a man called by the name of Zacchaeus. He was a chief tax collector, and he was rich. Zacchaeus was trying to see who Jesus was and was unable because of the crowd, for he was small in stature. So he ran ahead and climbed up in a sycamore tree in order to see him. He was about to pass through that way. When Jesus came to that place, he looked up and said to him, "Zacchaeus, hurry and come down, for today I must stay at your house." So, once again, Jesus is noticing people that either aren't noticed or they are turned away from because of who they are.
Well, and this kind of encapsulates the idea of, at the previous, the ask, seek, knock. God is seeking those who seek him. So we have Zacchaeus who's seeking Jesus, can't find him without Jesus also coming and showing himself to him. So there's kind of that, mankind left alone. You can study any kind of religion out there, and they are seeking what? They're seeking the supernatural.
They are.
But what we need is God to actually tell us who he is and come and seek us as well. And that's what God has done through prophets, through the Word, through Jesus coming. And Jesus is kind of the epitome of God seeking his seekers.
Positioning ourselves to have that meeting with God.
Yeah, absolutely.
And he hurried and came down and received him gladly. When they saw it, they all began to grumble. Oh no, grumbling again, saying, "He has gone to be guest of a man who is a sinner." Zacchaeus stopped and said to the Lord, "Behold, Lord, half of my possessions I will give to the poor. And if I have defrauded anyone of anything, I'll give back 4 times as much." And Jesus said to him, "Today salvation has come to this house, because he too is a son of Abraham. For the Son of Man has come to seek and to save that which was lost."
I find this interesting that back in chapter 18, we have the rich young ruler. And Jesus comes to him and says, "Go and sell all your possessions." Zacchaeus is a rich man. He's not asking him to do that.
No.
Zacchaeus willingly. And this gets back to the fact that we understand that the reason why Jesus asked the rich man to do what he did was because he understood something, that the rich man was captivated by his riches.
Zacchaeus takes care of that himself.
Yeah.
He knows what he wants.
He self-identifies.
He is. How about that?
The problem. And in 24, remember it says, Jesus seeing that he had become sad, this is 18, how difficult is it for those who have wealth to enter the kingdom of God? And once again, it is difficult, but Jesus goes on to say, but what is impossible with man is possible with God. And so what we're seeing is really the climax of all of these rich man, tax collector. This is the sinner of sinners.
He's even a chief tax collector.
Yeah, in the Pharisees' mind, they've had all these encounters with these tax collectors, and yet we see a tax collector who's a rich man, who sees the need for Jesus, seeks Jesus, and Jesus then comes to him. And Zacchaeus is willingly repenting. I mean, this is an act of repentance, of giving back plus some. He's actually following the law as
He
well.
hasn't received what he wanted with his wealth and his position. And he has come to realize that Jesus can give him what that can't. The rich man hadn't come to that point.
No.
So, and it's ironic, is it not, that the Pharisees object because he's going to eat with a sinner, as if they aren't.
Yeah.
They're the worst of all.
Yep.
Okay, the parable of money usage, I have as my title. While they were listening to these things, Jesus went on to tell a parable because he was near Jerusalem, and they supposed that the kingdom of God was going to appear immediately. So he said, a nobleman went to a distant country to receive a kingdom for himself and then return. And he called 10 of his slaves and gave them 10 minas and said to them, do business with this until I come back. But his citizens hated him and sent a delegation after him, saying, we do not want this man to reign over us. When he returned after receiving the kingdom, he ordered that these slaves to whom he had given the money be called to him, so that they might know what business they had done. The first appeared, saying, Master, your mina has made 10 minas more. And he said to him, well done, good slave, because you have been faithful in a very little thing, you are to be in authority over 10 cities. The second came to him, saying, your mina, master, has made 5 minas. He said to him also, you are over 5 cities. Another came to him, saying, Master, here's your mina, which I kept away, put it in a handkerchief, for I was afraid of you, because you are an exacting man. You take up what you did not lay down and reap what you did not sow. So let's pause there for just a minute. We've got the guy's coming back. He's asked him to do business. He said, do something with this. And 2 of them did. One of them paralyzed himself with an unreasonable fear, probably a self-justification, and didn't do anything.
Well, and it's interesting how much in these last few chapters Jesus has used wealth as a sign. How you use your wealth, what you do with your wealth, what you do with your stuff, really determines your kingdom living, because we get so caught up in building money for ourselves. Rather, Jesus says, remember, use your money to make friends, to grow the kingdom, to do business, to do kingdom stuff. And so Jesus is blessing these people. God has blessed these people with a lot or even a little. Yeah. And even if it's 10 or if it's 5 or it's 1, he's expecting something of it.
And not more than he's given you, but what he has given you.
He expects.
Yes, and money gives us opportunities in a materialistic world.
Yeah.
If we use it to make opportunities for spiritual things, it is a good servant. It's a horrible master.
Yeah, I've heard people talk about how the church needs a zero budget, doesn't need any funds, doesn't need any money, and can still operate. Technically, that probably could be true, meaning it costs no money to talk to people about Jesus. But yet, what you see, even with Jesus and in the first century, what they do with their possessions, what they do with their money, they'll, and how they serve God with it, how they serve one another with it, how they're selling their possessions.
And they had a treasury.
Yeah.
So they got money they're putting to the side.
Yeah, they're supporting apostles through it. They're supporting Paul through it. I mean, money is a necessity God has blessed us with, and it's not something that the church is trying to make wealth off and make money off. And
another tool.
It's a tool to serve the kingdom. And if you think you need millions and millions of dollars to serve God, that's a false idea.
False.
But if you think, God doesn't want any of your money, God doesn't need any of them, that's also a false idea. I mean, God doesn't need it, but the kingdom, we are not God.
We live in a material world.
We live in a material world, and the way we use our material, other people will see. And when they see us blessing others with it, that says something about who we are and who's our master.
There is a tendency amongst those who want to be religious to overdo it.
Yeah.
And, be austere when we shouldn't be. And that's not the answer. Some people take the other extreme. Well, anything goes. Let's buy mansions and cars and planes and show that God blesses us. The other is, let's just eat bread and drink water and never have any money in the bank. There's something in the midst of that. That's where it is.
And it's funny when we live in such a rich society, kings among kings, as it's said, that people talk about not having enough for doing this or doing that. And it's really, if we lived a more simplistic life, it's amazing when you actually analyze your budget and where you spend money and what you spend money on, that if you just cut in some places, all of a sudden you're like, wow, there's hundreds of dollars right here, a month.
And life is still enjoyed.
And life is still enjoyed, absolutely.
So he said to him, this guy who has put it in the handkerchief and not done anything, by your own words I will judge you, you worthless slave. There's a commentary here on, works. We don't have works righteousness, and we're not saved by our works, but God expects us to work.
Yeah.
You know that I'm an exacting man, taking up what I did not lay down and reaping what I did not sow. Then why did you not put my money in the bank? And having come, I would have collected it with interest. It's something. Then he said to the bystanders, take the mina away from him and give it to the one who has the 10 minas. And they said to him, Master, he has 10 minas already. I tell you that to everyone who has, more shall be given, but to the one who does not have, even what he does have, shall be taken away. But these enemies of mine who did not want me to reign over them, bring them here and slay them in my presence.
So there's the key verse, is the fact that who did not want me to reign over them. And how we treat our things, our possessions, even our time. I mean, you think about time that God has blessed us with. Is God reigning over us, or are we reigning over ourselves?
We can't serve two masters. If we're serving mammon, if we've got the evil eye of materialism, then we don't want God to reign over us.
Yeah. Do we sprinkle God in our life? Or is God directing and moving
touch of God here and there?
Yeah.
We won't have that.
Yeah. So and it's an interesting kind of coming to a head before, this is Luke's version right before the triumphal entry. We've got a tax collector, and then we've got how you handle your money, what you do with your money. Because once again, the everyday average Joe, which is what Luke is really writing to, everybody has something.
Oh, yeah.
And kingdom life looks like what you have, God expects you to use. Okay? So now we're going to get into Jesus going into Jerusalem.
The so-called triumphal entry.
And when he had said these things, he went on ahead going up to Jerusalem. When he drew near Bethphage and Bethany, at the mount that is called Olivet, he sent 2 of the disciples, saying, go into the village in front of you, where on entering you will find a colt tied, on which no one has ever sat. Untie it and bring it there. And we're fulfilling prophecy, Old Testament prophets. If anyone asks you, why are you untying it? You shall say this, the Lord has need of it. And for a Jew,
people all out there that had plugged into this.
Yeah, and for a Jew, they would have understood that. And obviously, at this time, if you haven't heard of Jesus, you're in Jerusalem, you haven't heard of Jesus, you're under a rock. It's kind of like the 2 men who are on the road to Emmaus when Jesus stops them. They're like, have you not heard?
Come on.
Where have you been?
Heard this.
And so those who were sent away and found it, just as he told them. And as they were untying the colt, its owner said to them, why are you untying the colt? And they said, the Lord has need of it. They brought it to Jesus, throwing their cloaks on the colt. They set Jesus on it. And as he rode along, they spread their cloaks on the road. And as he was drawing near, already on the way down to the Mount of Olives, the whole multitude of his disciples began to rejoice and praise God with a loud voice for all the mighty works they had seen, saying, blessed is the King who comes in the name of the Lord, peace in heaven and glory in the highest. Psalm 118. Some of the Pharisees in the crowd said to him, Teacher, rebuke your disciples. And he answered, I tell you, if these were silent, the very stones would cry out.
Aha.
And meaning that this entire setup has been an act by God and Jesus working up to this moment. And I find it interesting that even if the disciples said nothing, he said the very stones would cry out, which Jesus has said before, from these stones I can raise up children of Abraham.
At other occasions, he tries to silence the crowd and the children. Same result. People have been trying to suppress God from the beginning. And they can't do it.
They can't. They can't. And they know what this means. Jesus riding on a donkey, riding on a colt.
Yeah.
This was a symbol of the Messiah coming to establish his kingdom. But once again, what we're going to find out, they're still looking at a different kind of kingdom than what Jesus comes to bring.
They look in the book that talks about Jesus and they don't see him.
Yeah, and so Jesus, we're about to start seeing Jesus separating himself from Jerusalem, the Jews, in a sense, the Jewish nation, talking about how he's desired to use them as a catalyst to bring the kingdom of the world. But alas,
they would not let it happen.
They would not let it happen. And so Jesus is going to cleanse the temple here in a moment. And it's kind of a prefiguring of, I think, the AD 70 cleansing that's going to happen to show I'm no longer with this place.
And it's a sad day. Jesus takes no delight
No.
in being rejected and having to bring justice.
Because verse 41, and when he drew near the city, he wept over it. He knows, once again, these are God's people that God and Christ and the Spirit have been working with all the way since the days of Abraham. The knowing of a thing, that they have gone astray, and the desiring of it are two different things. It's like when you're a child, right? Sometimes you got to let your child go the way they're going to go. But man, as a father, it hurts.
Breaks your heart, yeah.
It crushes you. And Jesus doesn't want, but it has to happen for more children to come in.
Yeah.
So he's saying, what that you, even you, had known on this day, the things that make for peace. But now they are hidden from your eyes. For the days will come upon you when your enemies will set up a barricade around you, surround you, and hem you in on every side. Tear you down to the ground, you and your children within you, and they will not leave one stone upon another in you, because they did not know the time of your visitation. And once again, Matthew kind of has an expanded version of that, the AD 70 destruction of Jerusalem. But the temple, was the symbol by which God was with his people.
No, they gloried in that and thought, well, this will last to the end of the world. It kind of escapes their attention that, it's been destroyed before.
Several times. And even Ezekiel, remember when they were saying, well, the temple still stands, peace, peace, peace.
Peace, peace, peace.
And Ezekiel says, the God is no longer here. And if God's not here, the temple's worthless without God.
The lights weren't on and nobody was home.
Yeah. But once again, Jesus is not glorifying in this. This is not making him happy. This is not. But for the kingdom to come, this must take place.
You hate to see potential squandered.
Yeah.
And we as ministers will see people that they could be a force in the kingdom.
No.
And they just can't seem to get the blinders off and get over themselves to let that happen.
I mean, how many times do we talk about, certain people or even groups of people that, like, if we could just take the energy they put into this, they've got the potential to put it towards the kingdom. The kingdom would just explode. But,
alas,
the field is wide. The laborers are what? Are few, unfortunately.
Simon Peter's a great example. He was kind of yelling and screaming part of the way, but Jesus saw something in that man that could be used for the kingdom, and he was willing to work with him and be frustrated by him and everything else, knowing that at the end of the day he was going to stay the course and do good.
Yeah.
And people can be Simon Peters and frustrating, but they get a glimpse of what it is. They know there's nowhere else to go, and they keep dusting themselves off and going. Those are not bad people. They're people that can do much good. Yeah.
This is the next part. We're talking about all this money stuff, right? Luke has been hounding on money, all the way back to even the unrighteous manager who used shrewdness to take care of himself.
Yes.
Now watch the Pharisees and the scribes and the Jewish leaders use this in the wrong way. They're going to be shrewd and to make money, but not to make friends, not for the kingdom, not for the sake of God, for the sake of themselves.
And as Jesus pointed out and what you just alluded to, it is most unfortunate that the people who go in the wrong direction get more crafty and creative many times than those in the kingdom.
Yep. So he entered the temple, began to drive out those who sold, saying to them, "It is written, my house shall be a house of prayer, but you have made it a den of robbers." And he was teaching daily in the temple. The chief priests and the scribes and the principal men of the people were seeking to destroy him. But they did not, here it is, they did not find anything they could do, for all the people were hanging on his word. So at this moment, the people have accepted Jesus into Jerusalem. Jesus is teaching, cleansing the temple. You know, it looks like some messianic things are happening.
Yeah, I got the donkey thing and all.
They still have the people to deal with, and they understand that if they go against the people, they don't want to mess with that kind of uprising.
And even though the people, we find out, are fickle,
Yeah.
they're like the crowd in John 6. If Jesus gives them what they want, then okay, but when they find out not so much. But the Pharisees are just playing games with people. They're just waiting for the right moment. That's pretty bad. You're waiting for the right moment so you can crucify somebody.
Yeah.
That kind of calculation is cold.
Yeah. So Jesus is in Jerusalem. He's there. He's teaching daily. People are hanging on to his words. But that's not the end of this story.
No.
They don't crown him as king.
No.
At least
not intentionally.
Intentionally. So anyway, there's Luke 19. We'll be doing 20, 21, and 22 this week. So we look forward to seeing you throughout the week.
Farewell.
Love you. God bless.
Bye.